In any tax software, to find the W-2G gambling section, go to the Federal section and look for Income. Then find Other Income. An even easier way to find it is to search using the keyword gambling or by searching for the W-2G tax form. Either way, you will get to the same place, the W-2G gambling winning entry screen. You can receive a W-2G form for different types of gambling, such as horse racing, sweepstakes and lotteries, bingo and slot machines, poker tournaments, and sports betting. The instructions are very similar regardless of which type of gambling winnings are reported on the form. When you receive the W-2G form, first double-check that the name and address on the form match your information. Then enter that into the tax software. Enter the payer's federal identification number, which is similar to a social security number but for entities. And verify the payer's name and address if it comes up after you enter their ID number. Box 1 lists the reportable winnings, which may also be labeled as gross winnings. Companies are required to issue W-2G to anyone whose winnings are at least 300 times the amount of the wager, or when federal withholding is required under specific gambling criteria. For example, if the wager exceeds $5,000 and the winnings are at least 300 times the wager, a 24% withholding would apply to horse racing bets. However, many gambling establishments issue the form for much smaller winnings and wagers as well. I will enter the 10,000 win for Luca here. Now, you won't find gambling losses on your tax form itself, but you may be asked for that information inside the tax software. Here in TaxSlayer, I'm asked to provide the amount of gambling losses, which for tax year 2025 and earlier are limited to 100% of your winnings. If I lost $15,000 in order to win $10,000, I can't enter the full $15,000. I can only enter up to $10,000. And gambling losses can only be deducted if the taxpayer itemizes. For tax year 2026 and later, with the passing of one big beautiful bill, the gambling loss deduction has been reduced to 90% of losses and still kept at winning amount. Box 4 on your W-2G lists your federal income tax withheld. It may be 0. However, if your winnings are above $5,000 or at least 300 times the wager, or the winner couldn't provide a social security number, regular or backup withholdings of 24% could apply. Box 3 lists the type of wager, such as slots or bingo. Note that some tax software does not list box numbers that correspond to the W-2G form. So it is on you to make sure the headings match between the form and the software. Box 2 lists the date of the winning event, not necessarily when you were actually paid. If you have state and/or local tax information, it would be listed in boxes 13 through 18. Make sure you enter any state withholdings that were taken out. This is a frequently missed entry in tax software, and you want to get credit for paying your state taxes. Box 5 through 7, transaction, race information, and winnings from identical wagers may or may not apply to your type of gambling winnings. Only enter them in the tax software if they appear on your W-2G form. Box 8, cashier, lists the initials or ID of the person paying out the winnings. Box 9 is the winner's social security number. Box 10, window, is the location of the person paying the winnings, such as the cashier's window. It may not be applicable to your situation. Box 11 and 12 list the forms of identification used to verify the name, address, and tax ID of the person receiving the winnings. 2 forms of identification are required, such as driver's license, passport, social security card, or military ID. For some gambling winnings, like lotteries, one of the 2 forms of identification must include the recipient's photograph. Once we enter the W-2G information, I can preview the tax forms. The gambling winnings are listed on Schedule 1, Part 1, Additional Income, Line 8B, Title Gambling. That flows to the 1040, and for tax year 2025, I can see the additional $10,000 of gambling winnings listed on line 8 as additional income from Schedule 1. In this situation, Luca took the standard deduction of $15,750 as a single filer. You may ask, what happened to the $10,000 in losses we entered into the tax software? They are not showing up because Luca used the standard deduction. In order to deduct any gambling losses, Luca would have to itemize his taxes. Let's compare this situation where Luca only had W-2 wages and no gambling winnings. He would have owed $815 in federal taxes. However, because of the additional $10,000 in gambling winnings, he now owes the federal government $2,015 in taxes. Ouch. The best way to compare 2 tax scenarios is by looking at the effective tax rate, your total tax divided by your taxable income. For Luca, the rate goes from 14.45% without gambling income to 15.42% with it. He would pay $2,200 more in total tax for the year, which is a real difference. Thanks so much for watching.